Thank you again for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So, my name is Emily Silver. I'm a family nurse practitioner, former labor and delivery nurse, and an IBCLC. I'm also a mom to three girls, which I think is really important to know because I love to offer medical advice, sound support for parents from what we know or don't know in research. And I like to segue in some real life mom advice as well. Right now I do all of my support, education, and care of families through my company NAPS. I co-own the company with another nurse named Jamie. We are located here in Boston, but we take care of patients all over the country and outside of the country through our online platform Nurture by NAPS. And what we do is we offer prenatal education. So all of your prenatal classes, similar to what we're doing today. This is a bit of prenatal and postpartum content. We have new mom support groups, feeding consultations, sleep consultations, peer support, online videos, and Ask a Nurse board. It's just a one safe place to come in and get some expert care and questions answered from real nurses in real time. Everyone's an RN or a nurse practitioner. A lot of people are real parents just like you. And our whole shtick is offering inclusive, judgment free advice. Today, we're going to do some breastfeeding basics. This class is perfect if you are expecting a baby, or maybe you're home with a newborn and you're navigating breastfeeding. And then the series is built that we're here every Friday for 4 sessions in a row to take you on a little bit of a journey in the breastfeeding and pumping space. But let's dive in, and I will save a little time at the end to answer as many questions as I can live in the chat. So for now, we're going to start with some breastfeeding basics, okay? So when you are pregnant, your breasts are changing, right? So a lot of patients tell me early on when they find out they're pregnant, their breasts start to change in size and shape. And in pregnancy, your breasts start to grow and develop milk ducts. This is an early pregnancy, and that's happening from increased levels of estrogen and progesterone. So what's very cool is you start making milk in your pregnancy. In your second trimester, your body actually starts to make colostrum, which we'll talk more about, and that's that first milk, that early milk. And some women may notice that they're leaking this, or if they did a little expression in their final weeks of pregnancy, they may see that glistening, shining colostrum express. After birth, there's a sudden drop in estrogen and progesterone, which initiates lactation, and it tells your body the baby's here. Let's start to produce more colostrum. And then we're going to talk about your milk coming in. So I think it's really cool to know that your body starts preparing to feed your baby during the time where you're growing this baby inside of you. Now, I want to, whoop, that we went too far. Hold on, let me go back here. I don't know why that just happened. Getting way ahead of ourselves here. Let's see here. We'll go back. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so now I want to get into, sorry, hold on 1 second. I'm just going to come back out again and stop sharing my screen because my slide went out of order here, and that's going to be very confusing for you. Okay, let me reshare and bring us back again. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, Zoom, share screen. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, I wanted to go to this next, and then I'll go back one more time. So I start talking about colostrum in your pregnancy. Like, let's talk about how your milk changes, right? So right away after the baby is born, and often, and I have my baby here to show you, in the delivery room, when the baby's born, we put them up skin to skin with mom. And already the body and the brain is like, okay, the baby's here. When that placenta detaches as well, that tells the body and the brain to start making milk. So at first you have colostrum, all right? And that is that thick, sticky milk that to you will look like not a lot. It's really dense, but it's very high in nutrients and great stuff for your baby. So your body's smart. It makes exactly what your baby needs early on. And with early feeding, okay, frequent breastfeeding or pumping, if that's what you're doing, or maybe you're doing a bit of both, it's releasing prolactin and oxytocin and telling your body, the baby's here. We're doing some supply and demand to meet baby's needs. So you'll hear right away in a lot of classes, we're initiating breastfeeding early and often and frequently, right? We'll say feed your baby every 2 to 3 hours during the day and every 3 to 4 hours at night to not only meet their needs and give them what they need to grow and develop and start peeing and pooping, but also to tell your body, let's transition and make more milk. And so as we get a little bit further out from delivery, now we're about 3 to 5 days out, the milk is changing. And still, with those increased hormones circulating and supply and demand, your body's going to start transitioning that colostrum to a more mature milk. The transitional milk starts to look golden and thick and creamy if you were to express it, almost like a really dense golden coffee creamer. And then as your mature milk and your full milk supply comes in, it becomes higher in volume. So you might start to see it spraying even. And it's changing in that it's a bit thinner and whiter in color. So colostrum, thick and sticky, transitional milk, golden and creamy, and that full mature milk supply, really, really white, almost like a skim milk, and really just changing. So now that I've explained that transition, I'm just going to go back one more to the hospital expectations, okay? So I think what I want people to know is how to set themselves up for success to help drive your milk supply in those early days. And so you are learning how to breastfeed, you're learning how to latch your baby. It's frequent feeding. So I'm a former labor and delivery nurse as well, right? So I always tell my patients, call your nurse in as much as you need to have them help you with feeding when you're in the hospital. Like hit that call bell and say, I'm getting ready to feed my baby. Can someone come in and help me? What we're looking for right away out of the gates to help the milk transition and to help that supply come in is a really deep latch. And so it should feel good to you. I'm sure you've heard, and you can tell me in the chat that people will tell you that you have to roughen and toughen up your nipples and that it's normal for you to feel pain when you're breastfeeding. In fact, I've had patients told that damage to their nipples is normal as well. So, what I'd like to say on that is that there's a lot of things that you'll experience when you're postpartum that I would call common, but they're not normal. And pain might be common, but it's not normal. And so we want you to be achieving a really deep latch with your baby that then protects your nipple, okay, so that there isn't cracks, bleeding, or breakdown, and so that they have that really great seal and that they're actively sucking so that they're moving the milk and telling the body, I'm here, let's make milk. All right. Early on in the hospital to help your milk transition, right, from colostrum to that transitional milk to that full milk, you can also do some breast massage before feeds. You can use some heat if that feels good to help really soften and loosen up those milk ducts before you latch your baby. Okay, but you will be doing frequent feeds, and early on, babies might be feeding for a bit. Like they're on there sometimes for 20 to 30 minutes, trying to get all of that milk and learning to suck and learning to even soothe a bit on you as well. So how do we maintain an increased milk supply once we brought it in? Early on, it's your body's smart and it's making what you need. It is doing it in pregnancy. It's doing it once the baby is born, once the placenta detaches, and with frequent feeding and stimulation, okay? And over time, your body is going to start to adjust to meet the supply and demand of your baby, okay? If we're looking to increase milk supply or work on milk supply, then what we're doing here is we're trying to increase supply and demand. So sometimes you'll hear, early on, people are struggling with their baby latching, or if you had a postpartum hemorrhage and you're a bit of a delay of your milk coming in, maybe some of you out there are triple feeding. That's where you're breastfeeding, pumping, and giving bottles to meet your baby's needs. So what we're looking at when it comes to your supply as a lactation nurse is where are we at with your milk supply? And can we increase supply and demand if we need to increase breast milk to meet baby's needs if it's not progressing naturally on its own? Let's talk a little bit about the letdown reflex. So early on, we're initiating breastfeeding, we're feeding frequently, okay? I say about every 2 to 3 hours, every 3 to 4 hours at night. But babies feed very much on demand when they're breastfeeding. And so we try to follow, I'm going to feed you and not let them get overtired, and that can help get you into a bit of a pattern. But they do like to they feed frequently and on demand as well. When you latch your baby and they start sucking and swallowing, some women will experience what we call a letdown. I like to explain this. If you don't ever notice a letdown or feel it, there's nothing bad or wrong about that either. Everybody is so different. But your letdown reflex is when your baby starts sucking. Prolactin and oxytocin are released, okay? And prolactin is helping to make milk, and oxytocin is helping to push out the milk. So when I latch a baby and they're sucking, sometimes that baby has to really suck and work to get the milk to then release. All right. And when we talk about pumping next week, I'll explain to you how pumps have a letdown feature to mimic your baby. And so finally, when that milk releases from the breast into the baby's mouth and you have that letdown, some moms may notice that they have a tingling sensation or they're feeling really full, but others may feel nothing. And so, as a baby is trying to get that letdown, you may notice that their sucking pattern changes. So, many babies, when they get on and latch, they're frantic. I call them little baby gremlins. They're like, give me the milk, give me the milk. And they're doing this frantic sucking and swallowing to try to get the milk, get the reflex, get that letdown. And then, when milk starts spraying and entering their mouth, they'll do a slow, long suck. Okay, that's going to come back again next week when we talk about pumps because pumps do the quick, quick, quick and the slow, long pull as well to mimic a letdown for your baby. Now, what I want to say about this is some women, they're just leaking milk when they go to breastfeed. They don't have to do anything. They're leaking it, and before they can even get the baby on, it's coming out. Other women, it may take several minutes, a minute or two of sucking or pumping for their letdown and their milk to happen. Sometimes you can have a letdown again at the end of a feed. Now, when you are breastfeeding and you are feeding your baby on one side, it's very normal to experience a letdown on the other side. So if I'm feeding my baby here and there's various silicone devices that you can wear on the other side while breastfeeding, when this baby is sucking on my left breast, and that letdown happens, I'm going to experience it on my right side as well. So some women will capture that letdown using silicone milk collectors. And I think that's really cool too. So I've referenced that I don't want you to have pain and that you need a deep latch. So people are probably like, okay, tell me more about that. Not all latches are created equally, right? And so everybody's breast anatomy is different, like in terms of your breast size, your areola, your nipples. So the goal here though is no matter what we're working with for your breast and your tissue, we want to ensure that your baby has a deep latch. All right? What does that mean? A shallow latch is when your baby latches on and they're not taking a large mouthful of breast. Okay? They might be just going right onto the nipple and it's pinching and hurting, or they're coming up and around the breast tissue, but their lips are tucked in, so they're biting, biting, biting. Okay? A shallow latch is usually the nipple is really far forward in their mouth and it's rubbing on their hard palate. And that's what's causing pain and nipple damage. So when we're teaching this deep latch, we want to make sure that the baby's mouth is going past the nipple and onto as much breast tissue as possible. It's a large mouthful of breast. So has anyone ever heard that breastfeeding is like eating a burger or eating a sub or a hoagie or something like that? People hear that all the time. They're like, what does that mean? I'm going to explain it to you right now. If I have a burger, it's a really nice, now I'm hungry. It's Friday. I got to get dinner after this, right? Like if I have a big burger and I want to take my first bite, if you watch human beings eat, right, what they do is they want to get a really good bite. So they put their bottom of the mouth on the burger, they give it a little squeeze, and they hook their top lip on the top of the burger to get a big mouthful of burger. And that's sort of what we're doing with a baby when they breastfeed. When I'm bringing my baby to breast, I'm holding my breast and I'm making sure that their chin hits first, then the bottom lip, then the top lip. It's a scooping motion. I'm bringing them up and over to make sure that they get a big mouthful of breast. Now, sometimes you'll hear and read you should see little to no areola to have a deep latch. I want to be careful about those things because everybody's breast is different. I've seen really large areolas and really small areolas. large breasts, really large nipples, small nipples, inverted nipples. So I want you to just think, I want to make sure my baby takes a big old mouthful of breast tissue. Okay. And so that is what we're trying to do, that big bite, that big mouthful, because then the nipple is going under and it's being protected in the back of the mouth. And that's going to help you feel more comfortable and have better milk flow. So let's review how to get a deep latch. What we're going to do is think of it as nose to nip. A lot of times when I come in and work with moms and they're breastfeeding their baby, the baby opens their mouth and the mom goes like this. And they bring the breast and bring the nipple into the baby's mouth and they bite it. Okay? You're in charge. I almost just don't even want you to move. I want you to hold that baby nose to nipple. And when you tickle the nose to nip, it causes a gape reflex, right? Tickle, tickle, tickle. And have you seen your babies do this? They're rooting around, right? The minute that mouth is open, you're going to bring them whoop up and over the breast. And imagine that the chin hits first, then the bottom lip, then the top lip, and you're closing over. It's asymmetrical, right? So we're bringing them up and over, and now they're facing in, and I'm looking for fish lips, right? Those lips are flared out. And now the tongue is cupped under, and I see a big old round cheek. And I want this baby to be in a nice straight line, which is where breastfeeding pillows can be helpful. Okay. So when I'm breastfeeding and my baby is latched, or I'm looking at a patient who's breastfeeding, I want them turned in, their body turned in. Okay, their nose touching the breast tissue, and I should be able to draw a line from the ear to the shoulders to the hips. A baby that's hanging like this is going to be pulling on the tissue. So we want them turned in, and supporting them with a good pillow is going to help you do that. Okay, you can even do it if you wanted to swing it on the side and have that football hold. A nice line from ear to shoulder to hips, nose facing in. Okay. Um, this is something that is obviously easier to do hands-on. So I always encourage people, if you can work with someone in your community to help you get that deep latch. And then NAPS has a ton of videos that show it and demonstrate it. But the takeaway here is we want it to be nice and deep so that you don't have pain and to help with your milk production. Okay. So how do we know the latch is deep? It's comfortable and pain-free. The head is straight on and not turned out to the side, pulling. The chin is touching the breast. The nose is touching the breast. The lips are flared out. Okay. It's a big mouthful of breast. It's not just on the nipple, but feeding on the nipple. Okay. The tongue is cupped under. You can usually see the wet of the tongue. And now, not only can you feel sucking, can you hear swallowing? Okay. Sometimes you see their cute little ears move slightly. Now, if you have a lazy baby and you're breastfeeding like this and you want to encourage sucking and swallowing, if you flap their arm, buck, 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 like a chicken, that stimulates sucking as well, blowing on them, tickling their toes to encourage them to be sucking and swallowing while they're at the breast. So there's so many different breastfeeding positions. I think it's really great to figure out what feels good for you. And I always like to clarify, you don't have to master all of these positions. In fact, I'm right-handed. So when I breastfed my daughters, I wanted to hold them with my right hand. That's what I felt good about. So I would use my left hand to hold my breast and my right hand to bring my baby across the body. And when I switched sides, I did football hold on this side so that I could continue to use my right hand because that's what I felt strong and good at. Okay. So in those early days of breastfeeding and you're practicing, try a few different positions to see what you feel good about and what makes you feel confident in holding your baby and getting that deep latch. And then as you get good at feeding, you can start playing around with other positions, right? So sometimes people are doing this cradle hold or the cross cradle. I've showed you the football here with the breastfeeding pillow. A lot of my moms like to breastfeed side lying, especially if they've had a C-section and their incision is bothering them. They'll lay in the bed on their side and they'll bring the baby up to the side, okay? Now, a laid back position, you can tell me in the chat if you are out there and you have a baby that coughs or gags from a fast letdown. Ooh, somebody just asked it in the chat about a fast letdown, right? It's the baby that goes on and they're like, blah, like it's so much milk. Okay. They're like, right? Okay. They're going to get used to it. But what I do for my babies who are, having trouble sustaining the latch because the flow is so powerful, their letdown is so strong, is I love a laid back position. And what that looks like is I'm going to latch my baby, and once they're on, I'm going to recline back. So I'm in a horrible chair right now, but I'd love to be in like a cozy reclining chair or a couch, and I'm going to get some pillows. I'm going to recline myself back. And what that's doing is gravity is now helping your baby. So if you can imagine when I'm breastfeeding this baby now, they're under my breast. So it's spraying and it's spraying. And some babies are fine with that. They can control the flow. But if you have a fast or strong letdown, whew, it's coming at them. So if I bring them up, that's helping. If I recline back, now they're over. They're at the top of the breast, and that's going to help them control the flow. So that can be one small little trick that can really help for that. So as we think about breastfeeding positions, I'm more so leaning into what feels good for mom and what's going to help them get that deep latch and feel comfortable when they're feeding. The other thing I'll just say is why I really do like a good breastfeeding pillow and something that can also support your arms is a lot of times when I come in the home or I'm working with a mom virtually to help them breastfeed, they get their baby into a deep latch and they're like this, right? Because like you're like afraid to move, right? I'm sure some of you, when you get the baby on, you're like, okay, I got it. I got it. It's the deep latch, right? And your shoulders are touching your ears and your back is over like this, but you're afraid to move because you're like, I don't want to move, right? Like I don't want to mess this up. And we're so focused on the baby and the deep latch, and I want you to be comfortable. So a pillow that touches down, now that I'm latched, ah, I can relax down and my elbows can hit the pillow, the baby's on the pillow, I can relax back. I'm comfortable. And being comfortable is really important because if you're all tight and you're stressed out, that's not going to help with the flow of these beautiful hormones that are helping you make your breast milk. So I want you to be comfortable too. So, how do we know your baby's hungry? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I've been doing this for over 14 years and every baby is different. Some babies wake up and they're like, feed me. They go just like from 0 to like a million. They're like, I need food now. Other babies will give you cues along the way. So when I'm thinking of my pregnant patients who are preparing for a baby, I'll talk through some hunger cues to help you understand how to know when to feed your baby. Early cues, early hunger cues are they start licking, sort of smacking their lips a little bit. They're opening their mouth. They're looking. My friend came over the other day, had a newborn, and I was holding the baby for her while she was getting set up to breastfeed. And what was the baby doing? Trying to eat my arm. I said, "Oh, sorry, buddy. My last baby that I had was 3 years ago. There's nothing left in here for you." But they were literally opening their mouth on me. They'll suck on anything, their lips, their hands, their tongue, my clothing. And usually, sometimes they'll have tight hands, right? I called them gremlins earlier. They're like, ooh, I'm getting hungry. As they get more active, now they're rooting. They're actually swinging their head around, looking for the breast. They're fidgeting, they're squirming. They might be trying to turn towards your breast or even a bottle. My older babies will start hitting you on the arm, or now they're fussing. Okay. A late hunger sign, or the baby that's like, ooh, hard now to calm down and get on the breast, is frantic. And so I like to point this out because this happens all the time to my patients, is they'll go to latch their baby and the baby's going like this, shaking their head frantically from side to side. And the first thing that we think when we're postpartum with our baby is they don't like my breast. They don't want my breast. They don't want to breastfeed, right? But a baby that's shaking their head frantically side to side, it's a late hunger sign. We've missed the boat. They're frantic. They're disorganized. They're crying. And now what I want to do is calm that baby down, soothe them, okay? And then latch them. So if you're seeing this frantic business, okay, it's usually that late hunger sign. Now, again, I'm trying to find little cues that baby's ready to pick up and feed, but some babies won't give you the cues. Every baby has a different personality. Some they wake up and they cry and they just want to eat. So you're going to get to know your baby and figure it out as well. If you're struggling with breastfeeding, or if you're having a hard time with supply or keeping your baby on, what I like to do is catch babies sooner. So when babies are in a light sleep and they're about to wake up, if you look at them sleeping, you're going to see their eyes moving under their eyelids. If you're really working on breastfeeding and you want to, practice it, or you're having trouble getting your baby to latch because they get so frustrated, picking your baby up from that light sleep when their eyes are moving, they're about to wake up, getting them on the breast, that can be a really great time to feed them. Or if you have a baby that gets frantic really quickly, I would stop changing their diaper on the way to a feed. Like just pick them up and feed them and change their diaper after. So we're navigating a little bit of your baby and the personality when we think about also how we can give you tips for picking them up and feeding them. So how often should I feed my newborn? When we started the class, I was talking about breastfeeding, colostrum and making milk and transitioning milk. And I referenced like feed your baby every 2 to 3 hours or every 3 to 4. Now babies, breastfeeding babies, just they feed on demand, right? And like we're going to just pick them up and feed them when they're hungry, right? We're also just trying to get good at breastfeeding. We're trying to figure out, the latch and that they're getting milk. So you can have cluster feeding sessions, and sometimes babies are having a growth spurt, so they're at the breast more often. Let's give you a couple like numbers here to help you wrap your brains around it. Newborns eat about 10 to 12 times in 24 hours. It's a lot, right? So we're looking at about every 2 to 3 hours during the day, every 3 to 4 hours at night. Here's how I think about it, just to help you too, if you're pregnant or if you just brought a newborn home. All babies lose weight, right? They all lose weight after delivery. We expect that. We know that that's going to happen. And we give newborns about, it depends on where you live, but here, like in Boston or in the United States, usually what we do is you have 2 weeks for your baby to regain their birth weight. So if you've heard of babies that are supplementing, they need breast milk or formula right out of the gates due to weight loss. Those babies have lost more than 10 to 12% of their birth weight. Versus if they just lose the little bit of weight that we've expected and you're getting going with breastfeeding, I want you to know that they have 2 weeks to get good at feeding and bring your milk in and regain that birth weight. So when we're waiting for them to regain their birth weight and in those early weeks, we are saying frequently feed your baby because we want to make sure your milk comes in. We want you to get good at breastfeeding in a deep latch, and we want to make sure baby's getting enough and regaining birth weight. Now, most pediatricians will agree that once your baby has regained their birth weight, you can now let them be the alarm clock overnight. So in those early weeks, you're kind of like watching the clock. Maybe you're using an app or writing on a piece of paper and you're trying to say, I'm making sure I'm getting these calories in every 2 to 3 hours. And overnight, if you fed your baby at midnight, you might be setting an alarm to make sure that around 3 or 4 in the morning, if they're still asleep, you're picking them up and feeding them. So check with your pediatrician and your lactation consultant, because once they've regained their birth weight and breastfeeding is going well, I start to let babies become your alarm clock. So I like to think about it, and in the 4th session of this series, we're going to talk about newborn sleep, and this will all come together. But I try to think of it as my daytime window is about 6 or 7 in the morning till 10 or 11 at night. And in that big old window of time, I am getting calories in. I am waking my sleeping baby. I want to feed them every 2 to 3 hours. And then overnight, I'm going to, now once they've regained their birth weight, put them down, swaddled, safe on their back, and when they wake up hungry, I will pick them up and feed them. But we're going to dive in more on that and longer stretches of sleep at night when we get into the 4th session in this series. Why is a baby feeding so frequently? You're probably out there thinking like, oh my God, 10 to 12 times in 24 hours. That's a lot, right? That's a lot. Your baby's stomach is small. It's very, very small. But this is kind of cool when we think back to when I talked to you about colostrum, transitional milk, mature milk. It's just a tiny little bit, a little bit more, and now a lot more. So as your milk transitions, it's meeting the needs as your baby's stomach is changing. A newborn, when they're first born, a day-old baby, their stomach is about the size of a cherry. So when I think about the capacity and how much your baby can hold at a feed, we're talking about like teaspoons, milliliters, not a lot. So when you look down at your colostrum or think, this just doesn't seem like a lot, it's dense and it's thick in nutrients, and it's exactly what your baby needs to meet even the stomach volume, those milliliters. Now we get a couple days out and the stomach is getting a little bigger, the size of a walnut. We're moving into closer to like an ounce of colostrum or transitional milk. When we get a week out, the belly's now getting a bit bigger. It's like the size of a apricot. And now we're moving into more when I look at bottles or measuring with ounces. Okay, now at about a week old, it can hold about an ounce and a half to 2 ounces of breast milk or formula. Once we're about a month out, that baby's stomach is about the size of an egg. And now, from 1 month on to 6 months, when your milk is in and it's established, from 1 month to 6 months, your supply, your baby is taking the same amount of volume in 24 hours that entire journey. Psh, mind blowing, right? So, they're taking potentially even more to feed based on how frequently they're eating. So they could be eating anywhere from 2.5 ounces to 5 ounces of breast milk or formula. So if you're breastfeeding exclusively, your baby's taking highs and lows. Your baby's taking highs and lows. It's sometimes they're going to take both breasts, sometimes just one and they're done. And we're getting comfortable with knowing that they're getting enough because you're feeling your breast before the feed and after the feed. You're listening for swallowing. I said earlier on that their hands are tight, but at the end of the feed, now they're going to be relaxing. Okay. So a breastfed baby takes about an ounce to an ounce and a half per hour. So if you came to me and said, Emily, my baby's breastfeeding every 2 hours, how much are they getting, do you think? Or how much should I put in a bottle if I want to give a bottle? A baby that's eating every 2 hours on the low end of things will take 2 ounces, on the high end, 3.5, once I get to 1 month and beyond. If they're eating every 3 hours, somewhere between 3 to 4.5 ounces. Eating every 4 hours, 4 to 6 ounces. So from 1 month to 6 months, the volume that your baby's taking in 24 hours isn't going to change. The frequency of their feeds and how much they're taking at any given time is going to change. But they're taking about the same amount in 24 hours on average that whole journey. Okay, let's talk about poops, pees, and what to expect with early on breastfeeding. At first, the first poop that you'll see for your baby is meconium. It's thick, it's sticky, it looks like tar. It lines the intestines when they're in utero, and they're going to pass it as their first poop. It looks like tar. So usually what we teach in our classes is to put a lot of Vaseline in the diaper so that when they have those earlier meconium poops, they're easier to wipe. As your milk transitions, the poop will start to change. And around 2, 3, 4, 5 days out, it's going to start to look more like a brown green color. And when that full milk supply comes in, if you're exclusively breastfeeding, breast milk poops start to look yellow and seedy, like little seeds inside of the stool, and they're liquidy. So I had a mom reach out to me today because her baby is having frequent poops exclusively breastfeeding, and they're runny and they're yellow and they're seedy, and the skin is breaking down on the baby's bum. We see this often. So early on, we're using that Vaseline to make wiping easier. But as that milk is transitioning and your baby is pooping so frequently and it's looser in texture, I would move to a triple paste or something with zinc oxide, something that's thick, to put a barrier on the skin to prevent diaper rash and skin breakdown. And you're seeing frequent poops. They'll give you a chart at the hospital or your birthing center for the first 2 weeks home to help you track pees and poops so that you can see and know that your baby is getting enough. Now, when it comes to pees, we're looking for one wet diaper for every day old they are. So on day 1, they're having one wet diaper. On day 5, we're looking for 5 wet diapers. Now, urine at first can be very concentrated in a newborn, and sometimes it's so concentrated it looks a little amber or orange in color. And sometimes it can have this powdery stain to it that we call brick dust. Often, if you see that, it's when you're still in the hospital. So then the nurses or the doctors will come in and be like, oh, yes, that's what we're expecting to see. As the milk transitions in volume and quantity and the amount that they're taking, urine will become pale, odorless, and again, more frequent. So, how do we know your baby's getting enough? Pees and poops are really helpful data points for you, especially if you're breastfeeding. People are like, hey, how do I know? How do I know what they're getting? You don't have to know exactly what your baby is getting at any given time, but we're getting comfortable with the system. So, I'm going to say it one more time. How do you know your baby's getting enough? Feel your breasts before you feed, latch them, And after you're done feeding, feel your breast again. I want you to get to know your breast. You're going to feel what it feels like when it's full and when it's softer after a feed. When your baby's latched and you have sucking, lean in. Can you hear swallowing? They're swallowing. Swallowing is good. It means they're eating. Is their tone getting relaxed throughout the feed and towards the end of the feed? After the feed and they're done and you can't get them to latch again and you burp them, are they content? They maybe have a little wake window and then you swaddle and soothe them and they fall asleep. Okay. Are they peeing? When you go to change their diaper, having these nice heavy wet diapers, are they pooping? And then every time you go to the pediatrician or work with lactation and check in, are they gaining weight as they should be? And those are all of the things that are going to start to come together in your breastfeeding experience to help you know that that the system is working and that they're getting enough. So, I want to talk about how your partner can support you. It's very common that for my breastfeeding moms, they start to just feel like they're doing a lot or they're doing it all. I was like this with my first. I thought to myself, well, I'm already up in the middle of the night breastfeeding. So I'll also do their diaper. I'll also swaddle them. I'll also soothe them. And then all of a sudden the night went by and I had been up all night. So if you are breastfeeding, it's a lot of work, right? You're breastfeeding. You're helping your baby, like diaper changing, swaddling and soothing, and you're physically recovering from birth. You're trying to drink water, you're trying to eat and feed yourself and sleep when you can. It's a lot that's happening. So, how can your partner support you? All right. Partners, if they're out there listening with you, or you can tell them later, let's get them tag teaming on the diapering, the swaddling, and the soothing. So if I'm breastfeeding baby at 1 in the morning, I'm going to breastfeed. I'm going to breastfeed. My partner's next to me, kind of sleeping near me. And then when I'm done, I'm going to hand baby over and I'm going to get myself situated to fall back asleep. And my partner's going to burp them, change their diaper. And I never know what I have around me, but maybe they're going to re-swaddle them in their sleep sack and get them back down to sleep. We're tag teaming here. Okay. What can you outsource or ask for help on with friends and family around your house? Because I talked about this recently on one of our Instagram posts. We're on Nurture by Naps on Instagram if you want to follow us. But I put up a post about how when you're postpartum, the day feels really long. And then all of a sudden it's over. And you're like, oh my God, like where did the day go? What did I do all day? It's like you were feeding a baby all day long and diapering and swaddling and soothing. So dishes, laundry, cooking, household chores, walking the dog, that is really hard to do when you're postpartum, taking care of a newborn and feeding frequently. So, in this short term duration, what can friends and family help with? What can you outsource? All right, because really you are in survival mode and I want you taking care of yourself. I really do, to the best of our abilities. And so then as we get further out as well, especially if you're struggling with mental health, postpartum anxiety, depression, not feeling good or recovering, you let me know and I'll help you. But like, if you are struggling, let's make a plan for sleep, even if you're breastfeeding exclusively. Some of you might be breastfeeding exclusively. Some of you might be breastfeeding and pumping. Some of you might be doing combo feeding. I don't know, right? But we want to make a plan where you and your partner tag team. And eventually, if and when you're ready, that can mean them helping with a bottle of pumped breast milk. And so when we get into the next session of pumping, I'll talk a little bit about bottles too. But I just want you to be thinking about how your partner can support you. One other thing that I'll teach, and I'll talk about it when we talk about pumping next week, is I teach partners to how to set up pumps, how to clean pump parts, how to wash and clean bottles, how to store breast milk, how to defrost breast milk. That way, if you say, okay, I'm breastfeeding and after this I'm going to pump, they can be in the kitchen putting the pump together and bringing it to you. Mom sits down to breastfeed, your partner can be bringing you over a fresh glass of water, having snacks out on the counter, nuts, fresh fruits, things that you can grab and go. All of these little things can be very, very helpful. So let's figure out some ideas for how you can tag team. And I'm sure you can tell each other in the chat how you all manage this yourselves if you're already postpartum. Okay, I wanted to leave a good, yes, I wanted to leave a good 15 minutes to answer questions because the best part of this workshop is when I actually just get to look in the chat and answer some of your questions live. So we're going to do that. Before I come back out, and then we'll do our giveaway at the end as well, but we have plenty of time right now. I just want to tell you about Nurture by Naps really quick because I'm going to give you a code to be able to talk with me more should you want to make a breastfeeding plan, pick out a pump, learn how to use it, figure out how to tag team when you're postpartum. Our Nurture by Naps platform is an online platform that you can utilize from anywhere in or around in or outside of the country here. It's on-demand videos, so instead of Googling something, you can literally put a keyword in and it's a video of me or my business partner that's 3 minutes long of exactly what you're looking for. There's an Ask a Nurse board where you can ask a question and we'll answer you within 24 hours. It's always going to be an RN or an NP. We have support groups, feeding consultations, and in fact, we take many insurances for lactation support. So if you wanted to do a prenatal lactation visit or a postpartum telehealth visit with us or a phone call, sometimes we can just tap into your insurance. So, what I'd love to offer you all just for being here today live is a gift from NAPS, which is if you would like to explore a membership platform to try it out 30 days for $30. Our monthly membership is usually $149. We also have an annual membership. I want to talk to you. I want to help you with breastfeeding. I want to help you get the deep latch. I want to help you make the plan. So feel free to scan the QR code, check out our membership, and if you want to join for the month, you can do 30 for 30. There's weekly live Q&As, 3 or 4 of them a week, where you can just come and talk to us. We have some live webinars coming up, and then we have the Ask a Nurse board. So today, after this session, if you're sitting there and you're like, I didn't get my question answered in the chat, or I have a specific question that's just for me, you can scan that QR code, jump in for the month, and come on the Ask a Nurse board today and ask me your question, and I will answer it for you. So we're going to come back to our giveaway, but before we do that, let's do as many questions as we can before we get into our giveaway. So I am going to come back out, pull open our chat, and holy guacamole, we're going to have so many questions here. Let's see how many I can get to. And it looks like we have questions in the chat and the Q&A. So I am going to first I'm going to bop into the Q&A really quick and see what you have in here for me, and then I'll come back into the chat and we're going to crank out some questions. Somebody asked, what do I think of the Silverettes nipple shields or the silver nipple shields? Are they worth the money? Okay, so the Silverettes or those silver nipple shields are these like really nice silver discs that you can put over your nipple inside your nursing bra. I didn't use them for my 3 girls because they didn't really exist. They weren't a thing, but I will tell you right now, my NAPS clients love them. If they have sore nipples or nipple sensitivity, or some women that I'm working with don't like the way it feels when they pull up their nursing bra after breastfeeding. They're just like, ooh, I need something there. So the Silverette nipple shields, and I believe, Sonia, if you're there, I think Mom Cozy has a great pair if you want to put it in the chat. What I like about them is they're cool, so they feel nice on the nipple, and they apply that gentle pressure like I was showing you with the silicone, so milk pools in them, and now your nipple's sitting in your breast milk. So if you're thinking about investing in them, maybe you wait until the baby's here and see how those first few days are going. But if you have soreness or sensitivity, then I would actually use those. I think that those could be a good choice for you. Okay. Let's see what else we have in here. If you're breastfeeding as opposed to pumping, how do you know your breast is fully expressed or fully emptied? The baby may stop feeding before this occurs, right? So we can't just rely on that as a sign that the breast is fully expressed. So here's what's crazy cool about breastfeeding in your breast. There's always milk in your breast. There's always milk behind. There's always milk in there. And so what happens is if you're feeding every 2 to 3 hours and your baby latches on, they are draining as much of that breast milk from your breast that they need to fill their belly. Now, everybody's supply will be different. So some women will feed, and after a feed, they really will feel, and they feel very soft. And if they were to pump after or put their baby back on, they might not feel that they have enough flow, right? But some women could feel that they still have a good amount of milk in there. Now, what I do for that, especially in the earlier weeks, is because you always do feel milk behind, is I want to be careful that you don't overdo it and try to fully empty your breast if you're exclusively breastfeeding. some women, what I'm trying to explain here is some women will breastfeed, they'll breastfeed, and then they'll feel their breast and like, I feel that there's still milk in there, right? That's normal. If you were to put a pump on, you'd probably still pull some milk out. But it's not your job to get into that pattern where you're emptying your breast with a pump after your baby eats, because then your body's going to say supply and demand, the baby's still here, let's make more milk, and you're going to keep filling up. And sometimes women can go into an oversupply. So, what do? You breastfeed, you follow your baby's lead. And after the feed, you may still feel that you have milk in there, and that's normal. But if you're uncomfortable, if you're engorged or have a clogged duct, or they only take one side and not the other, and you're like, oh my God, like I can't make it to the next feed, that's where I might do some hand expression, use silicone products to take the edge off, or some pumps have like a manual pump. You can lightly express them. So now we might move a little bit of milk out just to keep you comfortable. I hope that makes sense and answers your question. Okay, let's keep coming in here and doing more questions. Okay, so we're going to try to keep all of our questions in the chat now. Is it normal for a breastfed newborn to get blisters on their lips? Do they go away? Is this because shallow latch? So actually, in fact, so I would have a lactation nurse or one of us just have an eyeball, but it actually can be normal for a baby to get some blisters on their lips from breastfeeding, and it doesn't always mean that they don't have a deep latch. Because what's happening is when they have a deep latch and the lips are flared out like fish lips, the wets of the lips are having friction against the breast. So even with a perfect, beautiful latch, I do still sometimes see those little blisters or bubbles, and they're normal and they do go away. And I have also seen blisters on babies' lips because of a shallow latch. So I would ask yourself, Madeline, who posted this question, if you're having pain, trouble with milk transfer, or something else that might be indicating a shallow latch. But if you feel like you have a deep latch, no pain, your baby's eating well, they have the fish lips and the big round cheek, this is probably normal. Okay. I'm 4 weeks postpartum, pumping around 3 ounces a session. How can I produce more milk? So I'm going to take this one because I think in general, a lot of people who are breastfeeding and or pumping, doing both maybe, many women will just say to me in general, how do I make more milk? Breastfeeding is truly, it's supply and demand. So the more your baby breastfeeds or the more you pump, the more your brain and body will circulate hormones to make more milk. Now, everybody's going to be different. Everybody's supply will be different. There's caveats to this, but let's just stick with generalness here, okay? So let's say you're breastfeeding your baby or you're pumping exclusively and your amounts are lower. How do we increase milk? Where can we increase supply and demand? So triple feeding is a good example. I work with a lot of women who earlier on, their goal is to exclusively breastfeed and they're not making enough milk for their baby yet. So they're also pumping and supplementing. So what we do for that plan is I have them breastfeed to feed their baby and empty their breast to the best of their ability. But because they feel like their supply is low and they're not making enough, after the breastfeeding session, we put the pump on and pump for like 5 or 10 minutes. Nothing might come out. And that's okay. We're just doing it to tell the body, someone's still here. I want you to make more milk. And that baby potentially could be getting a supplemental bottle to meet caloric needs while this is happening. Triple feeding and breastfeeding, pumping, and bottle feeding like that is very effective in helping to increase milk supply, but it's not a long-term plan because it's very challenging. I wouldn't call it a sustainable long-term plan, but I use it often to help try to boost that milk supply. I'm sure people are asking this if I scroll around and look, but people always ask about supplements. You'll see fenugreeks, cookies, and teas, and all sorts of things on the market. Unfortunately, we need more research on breast milk, and we don't have evidence-based research to show that breastfeeding supplements improve supply. That being said, women have been using them for hundreds of years. Things like fenugreek, Legendary Milk makes some supplements. People will take sunflower lecithin when they're breastfeeding. There's various supplements that you'll see, okay? So if you would like to try them, you certainly can. But again, we don't have research to show that they actually work. So when I think about teas, cookies, oatmeals, these things that you hear that can increase supply, if you enjoy oatmeal, if you enjoy a cup of tea, go for it. But I don't want someone sitting there eating or consuming something they don't even love to try to increase their supply because truthfully, by the time you digest it, break it down, absorb it, it's hard to know if trace or scant amounts even cross into the breast milk. So if you're looking to try like supplementation like that, I would consider the capsules or over-the-counter supplements that come in a bottle just to really wham your system with them versus consuming it by eating it or drinking it. Not harmful though if you want to try it. Um, my baby has, oh, this is a good one. My baby has frequent reflux. Does that have anything to do with how I'm breastfeeding him? This is a great question. So, a couple things to know. All babies have reflux. Their stomachs are small. The flap of the stomach isn't digested yet. Spit up is unavoidable. I'm sure you've all been spit up on if you have a newborn. And that digestive system is developing, okay? And the esophagus is developing in the whole first year of life. So all babies have reflux. Now the question then becomes the severity level of it, right? So if you have a baby with reflux and they're breastfeeding well, they're feeding well, and they're happy. So we call them, are they happy spitters? Are they angry spitters? Are they uncomfortable? But if they're eating well and they're happy and they're gaining weight, and they're navigating through some gas and some reflux and spit up, we really just leave it alone. Severe reflux, okay, is usually babies that are unhappy a lot of the time. They're unhappy during and after feeds, and they may be having weight gain issues. And that's where pediatricians will treat them. So, different breastfeeding positions could help for a reflux baby, meaning babies that breastfeed are used to eating on their side. If you're navigating breastfeeding, though, bringing them upright a little bit, right? Instead of flat. This is a theory, it's not proven, right? But the thought is if their head's above their belly, that could help. And after we breastfeed, keeping them upright for a little bit to try to keep milk in the belly. All right. But to answer you explicitly, it's unlikely that it's like that you're doing something wrong with breastfeeding. It is very normal for newborns to have reflux. I'll also just add into, while we have time here before we jump out for our giveaway, that we know, statistically speaking, that gassy, fussy babies, like the peak of gassy, fussy babies, is 6 to 8 weeks of age. So, in addition to having reflux, you can also see babies that are just like super duper uncomfortable as their GI system is developing and they have like this steady climb of gassy, fussy behavior, and then it sort of comes right back down again. For that, there is some research to show that a daily probiotic can help with that. There's some amazing questions in the chat, and I wish I could get to all of them. But I want to make sure we stop to do our giveaway. So if you did not get your question answered and you like me and you enjoy working with me and you want to talk to me again, scan the QR code, use your code 30 for 30, log into Nurture, and go right to the Ask a Nurse board right now. Ask me a question or post it from the chat there, and I will answer you. All right, now the fun part. Let's get to our giveaways. If you could take the survey, that would be amazing.
Yes, please, please, please. So many great questions. Take a moment to scan the QR code and let us know how we did. We definitely value your feedback and we're so happy to hear from you. So it's giveaway time. 3 lucky moms today will win the Mom Cozy Max Support Nursing Pillow. So to win, I just typed mcp@momcozy.com. If you hear your name called, you have to say here in the chat just to let us know that you're here and you will win. So let's see who will be the first winner. Do we have Stephanie Ebo? Are you here, Stephanie? Here. Okay, good. Okay, our second winner. Do we have Kimberly Weber? Kimberly, are you here? Let us know if you're here, Kimberly. You have to type here in the chat. You're here. This is awesome. And our last winner. Do we have Sally Johnson? Sally, let us know if you're here. You're here. Yay! I'm so excited for our winners. So again, I typed MCP at momcozy.com, and what you'll do is you'll just send your information over and we will let you know how you will get your prize. Thank you so much, guys. Today was amazing. Join us again next week.
Yeah,
We will be here at 1 o'clock next week for our pumping call. And I know so many of you had great questions about pumps. And so Emily will join us here next week
I'll
to
be back.
answer those questions.
Please note too, a lot of you are asking in the chat, you will receive an email from NAPS on Monday with the recording of this session, the link for the survey, the code for the membership. So if you're on a phone or you couldn't access the chat, don't worry, it's all coming in. And just, oh, there's such really kind things in the chat. Thank you so much, all of you. You're so kind. I'm so glad to have you all here. And thanks to Mom Cozy for hosting this.
Absolutely.
Really, really great to be here and do this education.
Yes, and we can't wait to see you guys again next week. Please join. So many great questions, and I can't wait to see you guys next week.
Happy Friday, everyone. I hope to see you soon.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.